Good late morning. It is Wednesday, July the 21st, 2021. This is a workshop meeting of the Commissioners Court of Grimes County, Texas. It's being held on this day. It was to convene immediately following the regular meeting at 9 a.m. this morning. We took a 15-minute recess from 11 a.m. to 11:15. We are still at 114 West Buffington Avenue. Meeting has been called to order. The second item, discuss and review the Grimes County FY 2022 budget. So that's where we're at. Cinda, may I impose on you to just refresh myself and the commissioners what you have put in front of us? Because we have fresh documentation.
Yes, so the big packet, the budget packet has the 3% with the sheriff's office included in there. It has the $650,000 for capital projects.
The what?
The capital projects, we put that money
The
back in
number.
there, 650. And then it includes the 3 extra positions.
And those 3 positions are one DA investigator, one,
There's 2 positions for, in Al's department at
Right.
different grades. I can't remember the grades off the top
okay.
of my head.
Well, I think one's a, your clerk is a, Al, what was your clerk? 4. And the other was your rover, which is a 5?
Yes.
Okay, so he put a 4 and a 5, and then we also have the DA investigator.
And the vehicle
Right,
along with that.
okay. So those are the additions. Now, did you also include David Lilly's additional training?
Yes,
Okay.
that was included.
Commissioners, so that you're aware, Mr. Lilly has been approved to attend a, I don't want to misquote it, but it is a very select training. And he was selected as one of the participants, and I think it was a $1,600 increase above his initial submission to the court during his workshop. He figured what his hotel was going to be, but he's also able to get some free room and board and stipend. But to cover the cost, I had him put an additional $1,600 into his conference's budget. So that is also in the numbers reflected.
Yes,
To
sir.
my knowledge, those are the only additions, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Would you discuss the CCL charge?
Talk louder, we can't hear you.
No, I was just asking what all, because I had to step out and grab my jacket. The CCL judge, there was an increase, so he reached the 4 to 8 years on, according to local government code.
Oh, yeah. To take them up to the level, not to the level, but just below the district judges.
It's 1,000 less than
Yeah.
the district judge in those comparable years of service, so that has been adjusted.
Do we need to vote whether it's worth it or not, or it's just automatic?
Whatever the court feels.
Yeah.
So what is that amount?
So,
Significant.
Sir,
Go ahead and answer her question.
the tier from a years of service from 0, or I think the tier jumps up like a $14,000 increase. And so what had happened is when he was hired on back in 2018, Commissioners Court approved him at a higher rate than the minimum that he was to, and then since then, Commissioners Court, we've received a 2% increase and a 2.5% COLA, and so those all applied to his. So with that $14,000 added to his salary, that puts him in between the minimum and the maximum. And the minimum's 171 total.
Can we back up to DA? What did you say? What's in the budget?
One investigator added and 1 vehicle,
Okay, we added investigator and vehicle.
correct?
We said we were putting in that crimes victim just in case we did not get the grant?
Yeah, her,
She's already in
she's
here?
already in, she's in 489. She's in
Okay.
CBC's budget already.
Okay, so she's already in there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
And then the capital projects was placed in there.
And that amount was, I didn't understand you. Alvin.
650,000.
No, for CDC.
Oh, for CDC, I don't have that number.
But you did say 650,000 for capital improvements.
Yes, ma'am.
And that covers,
The storage building and the renovations to the annex.
Now, is this money that's remaining, just moving over from what's in now?
Yes, what we've come to the conclusion is back, when this originally started, Mary did move the reserves from 10 to 49, but she did not move the entire amount. So we will end up moving that and transferring it over.
How much is that gonna be?
I believe that number is approximately $3 million.
And this new budget does include the 3% cost of living?
It
With the
does.
sheriff?
With the sheriff's department included, yes. It does not include, which I'm assuming that is one of the reasons we're meeting today, the different priorities. So building maintenance, it doesn't include those additional expenses he's needing if he takes on the St. Joseph's building. I think it was an additional 880, was it?
Say that again?
It does not, it includes building maintenance personnel, but it doesn't include, remember, all the operating is the same as this fiscal year right now, because we were coming to court to discuss priorities and what to place in the expenses.
Did you follow?
Yeah, they left me out of the budget because.
We didn't
the-
leave you out of the budget.
I mean, the new section of taking over Navasota Annex and the hospital, because we haven't discussed this, that's what I followed.
Yes,
Okay, so we're saying the money that was in non-departmental for crimes?
that portion has been, we will transfer that money over and everything at that time, but there was also an increase to your overall budget.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like a $75,000 increase, I believe. And I was attributing that to St. Joseph's. I don't know if that was a true statement or not.
It's. every-
Combination.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's,
yeah.
so that hadn't been moved over on the previous? Or you saying now it's in this one? It wasn't in the one you gave us last week?
Yeah, we left the operating the same
Right.
as last year, so
We were instructed to leave the operating the same as this current year.
Even though those things moved over?
That's how we were instructed to do this right now as a starting baseline for you guys.
so you can see where we're at.
Okay. So we're doing this again, that's what we did last week. So this did the same thing that we did last year? Remember my call about the changes and they were still in my budget? And I was saying they need to go over to Al. So what you're giving us today, I'm just trying to understand, what you're giving us today is the exact same thing I got almost last week?
Yes, with the exception of the sheriff's department added and the CCL judge
Okay,
and the capital improvements that you had mentioned.
okay. I called last week saying, oh, I found money.
I like that call.
Well, it wasn't a matter of finding, it was a matter of just transferring from one place to another.
I thought
so-
they had duplicated it, so.
Yeah, no.
Did that go to my budget? That you're
It didn't go
founding money?
anywhere.
It stayed.
Okay, I think I know where we're at. So what I had asked the commissioners to do in my email was to, or the email that you received about this workshop, I wanted to know what were your priorities for putting into this proposed budget. And I'm gonna say again, it's difficult to determine how much of what we can put in the budget until we get our final numbers. And those final numbers are not due until the 26th, which is Monday. We do, if you do look though at the very last page, page 37 of the document that Cindy gave to you, with the increases, or rather the increases, the COLA adjustments to all employees, including the sheriff's office, and the additions that we've already mentioned, we are to the good $120,789.14. Although, I know based on the priorities and some of the other changes that we've already talked about, that will be gone in the blink of an eye.
We are to the good. I don't know.
At this
Yeah.
moment,
That is because after speaking with Shannon Sanders and I had a few questions and everything. He didn't give me any numbers. I was just asking him, in regards to our value and the protest, how many properties were under protest. I ended up personally adjusting our ad valorem, so that is not the same as this year. I adjusted it to an amount that I felt was feasible. And like the judge said, we will not get the certified, we will not receive the certified until next Monday. But that's where the 120,000 gain came in, is because I adjusted the ad valorem.
Okay, so there was some adjustment in this.
That was the only revenue adjustment, yes ma'am. I apologize, we were discussing the expenses and I wasn't thinking revenue, but that's where the 120,000 increase came from.
How many protests did he indicate were in the works?
I knew once I said that would be a question. I know it decreased from our original amount when we met with the judge. There was quite a few properties under protest at that time.
didn't Shannon suggest that there were no more though? Because he gave me a, between him and everybody. Commissioner Cox, to answer your question exactly, I'm not sure, but I thought the number was 0 because they had taken care of all of the residential and that type, and I thought we were down to 1 or 2 on the commercial. And
There
one of
was
the
still a
commercials,
number when I met with them.
ma'am,
It originally started out like at 265 properties under protest.
right?
And then when I spoke with them maybe a week or 2 ago, have you spoken with them recently, more recently than that? There were still a number of properties, but it wasn't near the 265.
That's okay.
So I want to say it was more along, yes ma'am.
I just texted somebody that works over the appraisal district and said how many properties are currently under protest, and I got text back 0.
0.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
well then that
that's-
changed since.
And see, the reason I felt comfortable and kind of, and somewhat saying that, because I thought the commercial was down to 1, and they had until July the 16th to make their application of contesting, and that came and went, and they didn't contest, so that cleared that one.
Okay, I spoke with him, I met with him like 2 weeks ago, so
Okay.
that's happened since then.
All right. So I think we're close to 0 or none, or, that doesn't make sense. Very few or 0.
We're at 0.
That, and so, in saying that, there aren't any major players out there
Right.
that are gonna significantly change what we think we're gonna get. But again, commissioners, we don't have a firm number until next, I guess it's Monday,
Yes.
the 26th.
Mhm.
By moving that, by moving that $3 million, does that still keep us at a 6-month?
That's taken that into consideration, yes.
What does that mean?
I took in consideration the full 12 million, whether the money was there or not, and so, yes, that is taken into consideration and still leaves us at the 6 month,
Still leaves us at 6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
And I think when Jesse was under medication, I asked her if we could go to 2, and she goes, yes, but.
No, I didn't. Pam nodded off here and there, but I didn't say that. And that's taking this year's operating, basing it off of this year's operating. So if salaries go up, and all of those will change, you know, as far as the 6 months, but,
Need some stronger medicine.
yeah.
Sure.
Right.
So can you go back to, I don't think I quite understand this sheet as well as I did last week's sheet. The numbers on your last page. Under revenue.
The 24,777,000.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to know what you increased it by, Jesse.
What it was increased by
Yeah.
on our ad valorem, on revenue.
Mhm.
Okay. I had in there 17. Give me 1 second. About $838,000. And you can find that difference on the very first line of the first page. It's 001003103101, which is taxes current.
Mhm. Okay.
It went from 17,261,000 to 18,099,000.
Okay.
And that's the 838.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is a workshop, I understand that, and we're not agreeing on, on yeses and nos. But in order for me to go ahead and, or for the auditors to go ahead and plot numbers in, with the increase that's been proposed, I guess I want to take care of maintenance first, because we've got the DA pretty well taken care of. And that DA number is in what you've given us, correct, Cinda?
So,
In this sheet, in this packet, the DA
yes,
and the vehicle is in here.
yes, sir.
We have or have not added the 2 additional maintenance personnel.
Those are also included.
Those 2 additional maintenance personnel are already in here.
Along with the loads that go with it.
Correct. Okay, so that's insurance and retirement and all of that. So the personnel increases that we've talked about are in the new budget, not approved by us, but at least they're within the numbers. So what's not in the numbers is it the increase amount that maintenance was asking for to meet the need, is that correct?
Yes.
So how much is that difference?
75,000.
How much?
75,000, requested increase from others, 75,350.
75,350, and that was for the additional floor space or just the hospital?
Ow.
No, that's,
It's for various things.
yeah, that's for, some maintenance upkeep on Navasota Annex. The, also the hospital was included on that. This is all prelim, just like we did the jail.
Understood.
So it was, yeah, so it's Navasota, Navasota Annex, because there was, what her current budget was not sufficient. It was $1 per square foot, and truly what we need is $6.53 a square foot, 83 cents, excuse me. So I rounded it just for, how we keep care of this building and the historical, these buildings and the historical courthouse. That's how we get to 75,000.
Now, the 75,000, does that include what's already in my budget on top?
Yes.
That's an in addition.
Yes.
Yeah.
So auditors, what's the best way for us to get a real number, keep track of this? Do we need to go ahead and transfer out of Commissioner Walker's budget all of her maintenance charges? And move that over to Al's budget, and then additionally, Al's proposing a $75,350 increase to that number?
Yes, so we want to transfer any and all monies to Al if it's all going under Al. And then at that point in time, we need direction from you guys on how much, it's a request, the 75,000. If you guys want us to put exactly what he requested into the proposed budget, if y'all see a place where you say, okay, well, let's try not to do this project, or however you guys see fit, we will depend on y'all to give us those numbers. But what's currently budgeted in Commissioner Walker's budget, we do want to move out to Al's budget.
Correct, since he's gonna be in charge of it. so.
Yes, but the additional funds, that would be a decision for you guys.
All right.
And the additional funds, now let me ask Al this. Did that include the hospital also?
So it was but it had that 50,000 moving over,
Yes.
and then it was on top of that. So that was Navasota Annex, the AgriLife, plus what little part to add on to, the 50,000.
So you're not, just to be clear, you're talking about Navasota Annex.
Yes,
Okay, when I say annex, I'm including the ag extension building
okay,
too.
all right,
Okay, because that's what was in my budget.
sure,
Okay, then the 50,000 for non-departmental for Grimes St. Joseph,
yes,
okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, maybe less because you remember we talked about utilities have to stay in non-departmental. So I don't want you to forget that.
The utilities are already in non-departmental. The 50,000 was set aside for St. Joseph's Hospital's any type of repairs.
Okay,
All of that goes to the building maintenance budget.
okay, I get that.
Uh-huh.
But what I didn't want to forget is this is new utilities. Road and bridge had been taken care
You're
of.
talking about EMS, the EMS, not
Yes.
the hospital, okay.
Mhm.
Those are, in my mind, are two different things. When we talk about the 50,000 for the St. Joseph's Hospital, I'm thinking of repairs. The utilities you're referring to are the EMS because of the land and
Just
the,
on location.
right.
And I just
So
want to make
that-
sure that you know that that's something we have to add, but
Yes.
not taken away from his, but it has to be added in the budget somewhere.
And non-departmental, so we need to add EMS utilities to non-departmental. So then, what I'm hearing from you is, go ahead and change that, because that's gonna be a need
Yes.
anyways. Okay, so definitely we'll do
So
that.
although his 50, that part is coming over to him, I just didn't want to forget it. I might
Yeah,
have
oh
said it
no,
wrong.
No,
yes,
that's fine.
I didn't
definitely,
want to forget it.
yes.
And
I think a part of his increase too is you were asking for a new vehicle, correct?
so, yes,
Your
depending on, yes,
Yeah,
yeah, a little,
I think
Man.
42,000.
33.
33.
33,000.
Smart car. Smart van. That's what I need. I don't need a gas hook.
And can I finish?
Yes,
sir.
ma'am, go ahead.
Okay. Although he's taken into those, we'll just say 3 properties, the annex, ag extension, and the hospital.
Uh-huh.
We also toured the hospital, and we know that that facility belongs to Grimes County. We had not been just pressed in the past on doing a lot of maintenance there, but in light of COVID, in light of the electrical storm, I mean, not the electrical storm, lack of electricity, okay, during the storm,
The winter storm.
we had an opportunity to see what they're working with, and a priority for me, you asked about priorities in the budget, was that facility needs some upgrades. It is ours. They have been generous in the past or not to help us with the building. But even now, we're looking at one of their major projects being a Cummins generator that we'll need to look at. Their insurance is covering a portion, but
So we're looking at the generator through the ARPA funding, ARPA.
okay, so
funding.
we're looking at it through there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
because it's
good.
health related.
Good. Okay, and we also talked about maybe the electrical part too, looking through, because it's gotta be wired into the building. Because it's 70,000 for our part on the Cummings, 70 to 75,000 on that, is just the Cummings generator. It's not the box, it's not the electrical box.
It's not the
In
transfer
the-
switch.
Yes, it's not the switches, it's not even the electrical box.
And it's not the pad modification if there needs to be one.
Absolutely.
So if we know this is a need, it may be in our best interest we discussed a contingency fund. I personally feel like the ARPA, or I call it that because it was the ARP and then they added
That's
the
fine.
A. But I feel like that funding, it should be, I would think that it should be an eligible expense. I can't guarantee that until more guidance comes down on that, but because it's directly tied to the healthcare, I feel like that we could, with the narrative, we can get that classified as eligible. But in case it doesn't, then maybe we need to look at some type of contingency, knowing that this is there and budgeting for that fund for that specific reason in case that does fall through.
Well, here's where I get a little bit hung up.
Yes.
When we talk about emergency, if we take it out of the fund, the general fund,
Mhm.
it's gotta be an emergency, it's gotta be unforeseen. So, John, when we talk about it being unforeseen, if we're talking about it today, and then in November, we find out that ARPA isn't gonna
Well, that's
cover it.
unforeseen though.
Ma'am?
That's unforeseen. If
Well, we can
expect
budget
it to,
Yeah.
or you don't,
Okay.
we expect it to be grant covered.
One,
And
okay.
that's unforeseen.
I just need peace of mind because everybody is very
Yes.
sensitive to the wording and what it says.
Yeah.
If we're talking about it today, and I'm in court testifying, did you know about that in July? No, it was unforeseen.
It's on video.
And not the right answer, so.
The statute uses unforeseen, but it's always up to the court and the auditor to decide what level they're comfortable with.
Isn't that scary?
Well, but
I'm
really.
not scared of the auditor, maybe the court.
So really, the incident to the generator was unforeseen.
Correct.
Now it's just a path how we get it
Funded.
funded, and that brings in the aspect of St. Joe and their insurance. It's multiple entities working on this, so the act was unforeseen. Nobody would have said the freeze would have took out a generator. If you'd asked me as a maintenance guy, I would have went, okay. But they have got their insurance to say that, so, this happens to be 50 years old.
And I would feel better budgeting it where it would come out of fund balance in 2022 budget, but if it doesn't have to, it won't. I mean, that way we don't have to come back later and declare it an emergency if we actually budget it.
And that's the reason why I'm kind of putting that out here, where we can talk about it and discuss it, because,
So that's an additional 80,000 added to what I.
And we can budget it without it
This is
being
the time to
current
talk.
revenues, right?
Yes.
This is where we
Yes.
budget it to come out of the fund balance, if it has to, but hopefully we'll rely on it.
Yeah, we budget every year for things with Road and Bridge to come out of fund balance or restricted funds. We do that if that's what the court chooses. The route the
We could
court
actually budget it
chooses.
without, basing it on revenues and then, hoping the fact that it would be approved by the ARP.
And as far as when I mentioned the EMS, okay, no,
The utilities,
uh-huh. And that would remain in 424.
that will, that is not in there currently, but we'll add it, yes.
I just wanted to talk about
No,
that while we were,
you're
so
right on.
everybody will know what's happening on that end.
And I guess, even though we're not approving this at this time, because we're not in a position to do that, I think we need to approve going ahead and moving the numbers over to these appropriate departments.
Yes.
So that we can get it there and get everything stabilized, so you're not hey, I found $100,000.
Yeah, because
And Al just spent $160,000, so, you know.
it was shocking. Because
Yeah.
I thought this was like a proposed budget, and for me to see it still in my budget, that threw me off a little bit.
Since it's still mine at this time,
Yes.
I'm gonna ask that those maintenance numbers from Commissioner Walker's responsibility to be moved over to Al Peeler's departments of responsibility,
Sounds good.
okay?
Got it.
Are there any, Commissioner Walker, are there any others though that you think, or Al, that you think we need to discuss? Because you had conversation with me this morning that, and I'm gonna share that you think your person, Commissioner Walker, is gonna be retiring, your maintenance lady?
She mentioned it, but I'm not sure. She mentioned it, but then she changed her mind, so I just hadn't visited
But
with
is that
Al
still,
anymore.
is that still in your budget, or is that going to Al's budget?
No, that was going over to Al.
Okay, so that'll transfer, and then JP1's budget, that's going to, That's already there.
We did that
and
last
there
year.
was also, you had conversation with Harry Walker about the maintenance barns, or is that
No, no.
premature?
So, the last time we met,
Mhm.
there was some talk about, why don't I do maintenance on our county road and bridge barn? And I believe I said we did and had a meeting last year at budget time, and he didn't want me to take care of it. Then it was brought up, I believe Commissioner Cox had said, why isn't he taking, besides the fairgrounds, why isn't he taking care of everything? So I, at that point, went, oh, wait. So I don't know where that stands. If that's out, I'm okay not doing that. I'm good with it.
But he doesn't have, does he have any money in his budget for toiletries and cleansers and that kind of stuff?
He has a repairs and maintenance line, he should.
25.
I know when the AC went out, it came out of my budget when I was over there.
Right.
So
I think
I
though for
would
this.
definitely want the AC type stuff to be.
Your little $5,000.
Yeah, 2000, it was 2000, yeah, that's 2 years ago. When they replaced it. It was in there for that kind of stuff.
I got $42,000 in that little one.
So he has a 4410 that he put 25,000 in for, and that's the repairs and maintenance line other than vehicles, everything other than vehicles. So what he intends to use that, I would assume it would be for his buildings.
It is.
Okay.
That's what we discussed in your office.
And does he have a utility line?
Yes, he does. Yeah, he has a utility line. I think the concern was just the EMS, that wasn't his department.
Right. So when will you get, when will you and Harry make a decision on
I
that?
wasn't involved in that.
Well, you're involved now, so the question is, when would you and Harry be, I mean, I guess you need to call him and say, hey, am I taking over maintenance or the,
Well, I can tell you his answer already.
is what?
He wants to do his own maintenance.
And when I
That's
say
what I would-
when I'm talking about maintenance, I'm talking about janitorial.
Okay, I can ask him if he wants us to take over.
He probably has a crew right now that pretty much does
You just give me
janitorial.
guidance.
Well, if it's a non-issue, and he's not beating you on the head about
Oh,
doing
no.
that, then we'll leave it alone, let him take care of it, leave
Yeah.
those monies in his budget.
Yeah, that's fine.
All
And
right.
that would give you time to get the hospital under your belt. and-
Right.
Yes, the
I think-
only
yeah.
thing, it was brought up on the other budget workshop, and I didn't know
All right,
how that was going.
all right. Okay.
So, and if she's not retiring, or if she is,
I'm not retired.
no,
Your lady.
Miss Carolyn,
At least for another,
Miss
what?
Carolyn,
Oh, Miss Carol.
so it was my, thing that if we want to take the monies from Miss Carolyn, if she's retiring, and the monies from JP1, combine them, and then
We'd hire you at 10.
we hire a part-time at 29 hours. That was what my suggestion was. But this has just been this week that me and Commissioner Walker talked about it, and I was scrambling because I haven't put that in a budget. I was looking down the road so I could get my feet on the ground. But I also don't want Miss Carolyn to come up in September 30th and go, I really don't want to do this, and then I have no way out. That's
Well,
But
you
then we-
have the monies there anyway.
to hire, yes.
Yes.
But I wouldn't have, yes.
It'd be the same money if you doing
Absolutely, yes.
part-time.
No, I didn't see
Doing
that.
I don't know what hours, but whatever you can get out of
Okay.
that budget and his budget, then that's how many hours you have.
Right, I didn't look at it that way, Commissioner.
Send to Jesse, is there anything else that we need to transfer into the budget that we're pretty much committed to that would give us a more reflective picture of where we're at?
I think you guys covered it all. And the only other thing I would ask, since we're discussing building maintenance, is to address the other request. Because, do you wanna leave? Do you want us just to transfer over those amounts from the other department and then that be his budget? Or do you want to address the request of the additional 75,000 so we know what to put and be complete with his budget?
I think it's prudent on our part to go ahead and transfer the requested increases out of his budget
Into this budget?
into the 22 budget.
Okay, so do not only transferring Commissioners Walker and non-departmental St. Joseph over to his budget, but then also increase it by the 75,000.
Because he's figured what the, I guess, the basic or the essential needs are to take care of that maintenance for the 22 year. So my answer to that for the moment is yes.
Okay.
Now, just to be clear, where is the Cummings?
What, the generator?
Uh-huh.
Well, Commissioner Mallett made the suggestion, why don't we go ahead and budget it out of fund balance? Fund balance, and then if the ARPA money pays for it, then it doesn't come out of fund balance, it comes out of ARPA. But if it doesn't come out of ARPA, then we end up having to cover the cost. But I feel,
I'm not following that.
I hesitate from doing anything from fund balance, but I really feel like the
ARPA's gonna take care of it.
Yes,
I-
I really feel that way.
I feel very comfortable that ARPA's gonna take care of the generator cost, at least on the hospital.
On the hospital, yeah. The other ones, that's kind of iffy. I wouldn't feel as comfortable with those, but I think the hospital. But again, that's not getting any guidance from, that's just reading all of the guidance.
And it kinda changes almost every time they send out new guidance.
Yes. Okay, so we're.
And I want to add that, to that, Al and I kind of talked about going ahead, if they have no planned projects, immediately trying to do some of it this year with the remaining funds they have left. Some of the repairs into the.
They, Al?
No, the hospital
Oh,
line.
okay. I say,
No, the hospital line, they
well,
have.
and does your time permit, or are you aware of any, if they have
He-
projects that you can handle?
He sent a list.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
sent a list.
you're
and
talking
there's
about the
some
one
things-
Sunderman gave us?
Yeah, Kurt Sutterman, and then I can get with Commissioner Walker here. and see what, I don't even know what you have left in there, Commissioner Walker. I didn't even look, I just figured that's your baby, I'm letting you have. But,
I didn't write it down where I can just throw it off my head, but
Yeah,
it was something like 42, 40, it's in the 40s, 44.
and I know they got some, and maybe we start out easy, I know they got some parking lot repairs they really need done.
Well, what about the tear down of the morgue?
I would say go ahead and, well, the tear down of the morgue was what we got bid, 90,000?
Yeah, 90,000. So I'm gonna have to do some work on that, and we had some other ways in that last workshop that we were thinking about going to, tearing half of it down and using
ARPA money to the rear
for the
other half.
telehealth and stuff like that. So I kind of just set that aside because it's been standing this long. If there's something that the county needs that, the building that I could save, the other half of the building just needs to be torn out. So maybe if I did that and work it in sections, we're not gonna be able to fix everything. This is just like the law enforcement center. We're not gonna be able to fix everything in 1 year. So I'm gonna have to get my feet on the ground and say, okay, this is what I need here, this is what I need here, and we can only make it better throughout the 11 years I'm here.
And I guess my suggestion is, if there's something small like the electrical box that needs to be repaired,
Yes.
we can get that done, if,
Right.
you know,
So
that
there's
type of
things we
thing.
can do on this year's budget that will help next year's.
Yeah, that takes it off of
So
next
you
year.
got 2.5 months.
Gotcha.
So you're down to 45,000 after giving him all.
45?
Yeah.
All right, so you're gonna make
And
those,
that's doable.
y'all gonna make those transfers. So are we okay with the other numbers?
Oh, not for the hospital, I'm saying you're down to 45,000 available funds for any other.
Oh, you mean our green is,
Yeah. Yes, I do what now? We will make the changes, yes.
okay,
That you've asked,
and our green field is 45,000.
yes.
So what was her left? Do you?
I don't have that on hand, but I think it was around the 40,000
Yeah.
because we had to pay for the road and bridge portion of the hospital line.
Mhm. It's a little bit above 40.
We can get together and you can find that number. I can do some.
I can give you that number after
Okay.
the meeting.
Maintenance is done for now?
Sounds like it.
All right, commissioners, I think I want to have some discussion with y'all in regards to law enforcement. You know, we as a county, and I think I speak for all of us, are 100% opposed to any type of law enforcement reduction or defunding, all of that business. The question I have, the 3% COLA that we currently have incorporated into our budget, is it going to help the stability of our law enforcement that we currently have? And the reason I bring this up is because HR, I don't know, Toledo, did you do this one?
Is that the one solely for the?
Is this the one you
That's
did?
done by
That,
Todd.
that was done by TMPA, Texas Municipal.
Okay. When I look at Grimes County, all the way across the board, we're anywhere from, and don't misunderstand me, I'm not talking about filling the gap all at one time, but from the deputy start to all the way up to the captain, and we're anywhere from 16% below, 11% below, 15% to 27%, to, at the top end, we're only 8% below the averages. And when I say the averages, there's Montgomery County is in here, but there's no way we can compete with the Montgomery County. There is a Robertson, Washington's our neighbor. Brazos is hard to compete with, but they're our neighbor. Austin County is a county over. When I look at these numbers, I'm really perplexed at what we do to take care of our law enforcement because of the numbers that I'm looking at and what we're currently paying our law enforcement staff. This modified sheet, Talita, you got them indicated by individual position and then the total for that grouping?
Yes, so they're out
Okay.
to the side.
Ma'am?
It's out to the side, so
Yeah.
you'll see like Taylor will have a
Okay.
number.
Let me just give you an example. We pay our law enforcement one, which are dispatchers, jailers, cadet evidence, sex offender registrar, records clerk, and diversion crew positions. That's LE1. We got 27 people in there, and we start them at 13.26. They go all the way up to 18.15. I need to do an individual breakdown, I guess. But when I look at jailers in some of these other areas of what they're being paid, and it's not just the jailers, it's the deputies on the street themselves, we're not a little bit below, we're quite a bit below. Our neighbors in Walker County were not very helpful because they just held a special, not helpful to us, because they just held a special meeting and made a significant adjustment to their law enforcement personnel. I don't see how in the world we could do something like what they did, because it was rather significant. I don't know that we have the industry compared to some of these other counties, but I'm asking for some input from you all at this time. Do we do some more research? And I'll give you. There's one for you and for Commissioner Malley. Commissioner Walker, one for you, and Commissioner Cox. What Talita did for me on this breakdown is she just listed the law enforcement positions and then how many we have in each of those positions, and then the number setting out by itself is a total of all of those that are in that, like LE1. You see that we have 8 dispatchers, 16 jailers, 0 cadets, resource evidence, and I guess school resource officer.
No, I think that's their
That's a-
sex registrar.
Oh, okay, all right,
Position and evidence clerk.
gotcha. And the
Is it-
diversion crew.
Is that 0 cadets or it's 27?
No, it's
cadets?
0. The 27, Commissioner, are how many total
It's in that
positions
group.
we have in that LE1 position?
If you add up the jailers, all of those individual positions with the number on the side, and you should.
It
get
comes up to 27.
And those are count for if there was any vacancies from one field. That's how many that was in there as the positions.
Okay.
You said they don't count the vacancies. They do count the vacancies.
And I get, again, one of my concerns is that we get people that hire on here, we get them semi up to speed, and then they bail out on us and go to another county. Now they're experienced, and we're just having a tough time competing. So I'd like a little guidance from the commissioners in the form of discussion at this time.
I know that we've made in the past, we've made a pretty good effort to increase and be more competitive, but it seems like we're getting farther behind now with more recent
Yep. Yeah.
things. I know it used to be a lot worse than it is right now, but I think we need to have a plan to get ahead of it instead of, constantly
Trying to catch up. Commissioner Cox, you were going to say something?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's no, yeah, it's to the point now we count on these guys and ladies to handle situations that most of us don't even want to talk about, much less be involved with. It is time we step up to the plate, in my opinion, and pay them for what they're actually worth. And if that means we have to go through every single budget of every single department, line by line, and determine whether or not those funds are being fully utilized for particular line items, I think that's what we need to do to find the money to compensate our law enforcement officers the way I believe they need to be compensated. They're not perfect and they make they make some mistakes as far as things that can be ironed out in court, but they're the people that we're gonna call on in our greatest time of need, generally speaking, and a lot of times that's not good. And I think we need to do whatever it takes. In fact, I think I asked you last time, Todd, what is the number? What's the number if we're gonna be competitive with people and retain our good officers that we have now? Where do we need to be in that equation?
It's gonna be just north of 400,000.
And that's paying what? Who are we paying with that 400,000?
Where are we getting $400,000?
So you'll be increasing the deputy's pay.
That's what Ellie, what grade?
I don't have them broken down.
It's on, the patrol deputies on there, I think it's a.
Here, if you'd like to have a sheet that we're looking at.
In the actual grades, I would imagine it's LE4.
Plus that didn't include the 3%, I guess, COLA too, right?
Patrol deputies, you have 14, that's LE3. And we're paying them 1734 to 2019.
Yeah, so you'll be increasing those independent on the years of service, anywhere from 18 to 31%.
I'd just like to do an one poll. Anybody in here makes $17.34 or less an hour? Would you raise your hand, please? These guys are coming to protect us and save us. They're enforcing what the community says, and we're paying them $17.34.
Well, I'm not arguing with you, I totally
I got
support what
you,
you,
Judge.
yeah.
It's just very frustrating.
Well,
Yeah.
and I agree, it's time for us to step up and take care. I don't know if we can get to the top rung on the ladder, but I think we can get somewhere where we can compensate. Well, we need to do what we need to do so that we make our compensation to some degree competitive with those that are stealing.
Yeah, and every position is different. Basically, we looked at, obviously, the salary surveys, and we're adjusting every position. So, based on the years in the service and the way our current schedule is, so we're adjusting, so just on the deputy alone, it could be 18%, 21%, 31%. Then you go into the sergeants, it could be 24%, 27%, and so on. And, the investigators are a little more, because a couple years ago, we got them up. We did make some adjustments, to admin, lower those down a little bit to help offset, make sure the deputies get their portion. We're increasing the jail staff, and the dispatchers, and pretty much all across the board.
Okay, is this a sheet for the sheriff department? I'm trying to follow the 400,000 that you kind of mentioned, Chief. I'm not following with these numbers.
Those are numbers that we have figured out based on
That's a sheet he has, you don't have it.
Well, that's what I was saying. I couldn't follow where it was
I met with
going.
the auditor's office and we sat down, went through some figures, and they're still working on that. And I talked to them last week, and that they're still computing some stuff to get together.
So they have their more restricted pay scale, and we have to work within that because we have people who are tenure, current tenure, going to reach tenure. So there's a bunch of numbers and calculations that we have to come up with, but we don't just want to, because we have to work that with whatever the court decides they want to move, and so how much they want to increase by.
So is that 400,000 based on your internal salary structure or this one? Or the county salary structure?
It's, yeah, it's internal, so based on the current staff that we had, I'm gonna figure this out, to what their pay's gonna be in their position, years of experience position. It'll change some, because we have obviously lost, losing some people, and we'll be bringing in some new people. Since we last spoke also.
So these numbers that we were given the last time,
And we made, that was submitted before, the Walker County stuff put in, so we made some adjustments. And I submitted that to the officers, and that's what we're working on now.
Currently, you do not have a copy of that in front of you. You have what was given to you at the last meeting. I can go make copies for you so you're able to see.
Well, I don't know that we need the detail for each, and I don't know that we need the detail for each and every one of them, but you said it's north of $400,000?
Yeah, it's like roughly 14, just figure, so you're looking at, close to 220,000 on one side and 188,000 on the other side.
What are the two sides?
The sheriff's side and then the jail side. So we're broken down into the jail 454 and then the sheriff's side is 451.
Okay, can you give me those two numbers again, please? What's the jail side is how much?
188 and 514,
In the sheriff's office?
220, 497.
So 110, 0. So if I added it, it rises about 411,000. If I'm right. So commissioners, one thing we could do is we could say that, and I don't know if we would agree with what the research that the chief has done, but based on the research that I've done and the information that's been submitted to me, I don't think they'd be too far off, but, at least we could, I think, commit to a number, just like we've done on maintenance. We said, okay, we're gonna put this number in for maintenance. We could take and put a number in on law enforcement salary adjustments. And then we just have to take the time to figure out how that's going to be distributed through their workforce to see where we really need to make the most significant adjustments to keep the personnel.
And that number could probably be a little bit lower because you put in these numbers before you put in the 3% COLA.
Yeah,
So there could be
That's correct.
more than that as well.
that's a good point.
But I agree, we need to do something.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be more than
There probably needs to
just
be a number, I mean, the 400 might be unattainable. I don't see how we can, I agree with trying to cut as much as we can, but I think there needs to be a number that we can come up with and be comfortable with, and that may be after we get the actual.
well, and that's what I was gonna say, if today
If we
we,
can line out a priority, then we for sure, I think it needs to be
Yeah.
in there somewhere, a form of above the 3% COLA.
I agree with what you're saying. There needs to be a number, maybe after we see the numbers you come up with.
It'll be similar to, it'll be pretty close to his.
It'll be-
We just have to create the pay scale because we put that in line with our budget. And that's what use when they turn and change the status forms, that's what we go off of and check, and it's
So,
part of it.
so if I took 400,000, but I took 3.5% away from that, I mean, what do we budget for COLA?
30%?
I'm at
30.
3%. COLA is 3% is what we're doing. So if I took 3% of that 400,000 away and brings that 400,000 number down, would that be a decent number to work with?
So you're saying, I mean, yeah, you could tell us exactly how you want to do, but he was saying the increase is between 18 and 31%, is that correct? Or does it
Well, that's
vary?
just on the deputy line.
So it varies, it's even more.
It varies all the way across.
Okay, so 3% of those 12,000, that only bring it down to 388.
And I don't know if this is the appropriate time to say it, but I think it is for me. I would like for us to, or maybe I could address the chief with this, look at other reasons also why we might be losing our force. You know, is it, you know, that might not be the only reason we lose some of our people. It might be, what's the training program? What's your vision for the department in terms of, I keep hearing this term defund used, and that was never meant to say we're taking money away, but it was meant to say we think that some things need to happen here and happen over here so that, you know, we'll have a better idea. Because as far as I'm concerned, yes, I do believe that, and they're a priority for me, getting them some type of increase. But I also want us to look at other reasons why we might be losing officers. You know, it may not just be money. You know, some may feel some frustration and maybe it's not being addressed by the department. Yeah, it could be any number of things why people leave, and it's not always money. You know, so I think that needs to happen too. I don't know what you're planning for. I haven't heard, you know, or we hadn't even sit down and talked about what you're planning for addressing, because I know that everything's heightened, crime, everything's up now. Are we addressing how did they cope during COVID? You know, there's a lot that goes along with that so-called word defund. That needs to be addressed. They may be leave because of other reasons.
Can I address that?
Sure.
There probably are numerous things that probably need to be addressed, I guess. I don't know. But I do know this, they're professionals, and they need to be paid as such. Just like I said a minute ago, who in here makes less than $17.34? I think I made a comment last time we were meeting. The people that are putting their neck out on the line, literally, are often the people that have to prove up any crime or are needed to prove it up, but they're the least paid person in the courtroom. And to me, that's just, I mean, it's almost disgraceful. They do all the work, they go out there, I mean, we've got people getting shot. They're going on high-speed pursuits. They're dealing with child molesters. They're dealing with any type of bad situation. And I mean, there's probably other areas that could be addressed, and maybe we need to put more money into the training, and we need to put more money into other areas as well. But I know the start, we've heard from the chief as well as the sheriff, and it's documented through salary studies. I don't think we're anywhere near where we should be as far as pay is concerned.
And please keep in mind, I did say that I'm not against them. They're a priority for me. I just think we need to come up with that number, whatever that number is. But I did want to say that, you know, because
And I know most of the officers that, you know, do tell us they're leaving because of money. I mean, when you can go next door and make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more, you know, they love the atmosphere, they love the workplace, but at the end of the day, they got to put food on on the table for their family, and that's what they're telling us. I mean, you know, yeah, there is some degree of, you know, the job duties are increasing and getting more stressful and stuff. Some of that, you know, the only way some of that we can control is, you know, spending more money for equipment and putting more officers and giving them more help to help process this paperwork. And, you know, every day it's something new's coming down, whether it's coming down on us, it's coming down on the DA's office and evidence, and they have put regulations in place, which, you know, it's just a trickle down effect. And then you have officers that spend probably half their shift having to do paperwork and get paperwork and get things submitted on time and get videos and pull videos, and then all of a sudden you got calls just dropping left and right, and they're not able to keep up, and then they're looking at, I can go to this place and at least get $15,000 more. You know, so.
Well,
that's
like you
where-
said, it wasn't, it was that word was used, and I don't think that was the intention of the word, is to take away funding from the police departments. It's just to make sure y'all have what you need in terms of training.
I mean, we never
all of-
accused anybody
all-
saying
No,
anybody-
I'm bringing that up. I brought that up. Okay, I brought that up because I also, you know, I also understand things are difficult in these days and times. There are conversations that may need to be had, and there may be difficult conversation. But what I'm saying is, I know that the DA's office and y'all's office work hand in hand. And when you got a lot of murders and cases and stuff like that happen, it does stress the officer on everything, getting everything together for court, and, you know, then still gotta work the street. I never said that I didn't want to see them get a pay increase. I'm just bringing up the fact that, you know, one day I'd like to hear you plan about the vision for the department and how we're gonna deal with some of the things that I'm hearing about. And some of them are training, you know, in terms of making sure everybody, even though we're hiring people, we don't wanna lose them either for saying, hey, I went over there to that department and they don't offer us anything in terms of meat growth, you know, cause everybody, whereas, yeah, you say they leave for money, they might also come here for training because they're rookies. And then they're gonna leave anyway, like school teachers, you know, so.
I mean, we do quite a bit of training, we bring in trainers from the EPA, we make sure we're getting all our document training, our fire training, and then some. We contracted out, training agencies to come in the past.
And you and I can visit on that, but I just wanna say, sometimes money isn't always it. Sometimes there may be other reasons too that that person may be leaving, and let's talk about it.
When we did this about, Todd, 4 or 5 years ago, when we gave a raise to the sheriff's department and the road and bridge, do you remember that?
I know the last few years, all we've done is COLA adjustments.
It was
and stuff,
under
other than
Lamont.
that, so-
Under
I was
Lamont.
thinking, say, you're talking about more like 6 or 7 years ago, because I
May-
was.
maybe
I was
so.
still over there then.
I know when I took office, for 2 years, we didn't give raises to anybody except Road and Bridge and the sheriff's department. We did that because we were losing officers there, we were using operators in Road and Bridge. That slowed the leaving down tremendously. The training that we developed in Road and Bridge, we started training those people, and then they started leaving us. So we have to constantly keep doing that. So we have to raise the salaries to be competitive. We're still gonna lose them because they're gonna go where the money is. But, you know, some of them realize once they get there that there's a lot of additional expenses to be working over there and a lot more responsibilities, especially if you go to Montgomery County now. You've got probably close to 500,000 people over there now, so you're dealing with a tremendous larger number of people. So there's a lot of things we have to look at, but yes, we do need to raise the salaries to keep those people in place. But we will never keep all of them in place.
No.
They're gonna leave.
Because some people are gonna move or whatever.
Some are gonna leave, and there's a core group that has stayed there. but that core group, you know, they are staying there, because they do like the atmosphere and the work and the training, the ability. They live in the county, they have families here in the county, they have property in the county, they're rooted into the county. So those people, they're not gonna leave necessarily for, you know, the next few more here and there. But that core can't do everything. You know, we still have to have the supplemental stuff, other officers that aren't developing. And we try everything we can to hire from within, you know, hire from the jail, to hire the people that do live here and are rooted into the county as much as possible, so we don't have these, you know, people leaving. But, you know, some of them we do.
We also need to keep it competitive, so the core people aren't lured by that tremendous amount of money that would be beneficial to them, you know.
Well, there's no doubt, there's a consensus amongst the court that we need to do something. So I'm gonna put the conversation aside. When we get,
Judge, it'd be around closer to $35,000, not 11, for that 3%, because it's based on the
okay.
previous
Right.
amount, not the 400,000.
Yeah.
It's based on that.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to table the conversation on that for the time being. Commissioner Cox, do you have any other do you have any priorities that you think we really ought to take a look at? And I know,
It's kind of a loaded question.
well, I'm gonna ask the same question to each other. That's what I can start with Commissioner Mallett if you prefer.
No, I mean, as far as specifics, I mean, here's I don't want to tap into the fund balance. We've got a 6-month fund balance. There's no need to get into that. I do believe that we need to analyze our departmental budgets a little closer. I think there's things in those budgets that we would find if we dug off into them a little more that maybe even the elected official or department head would agree that they don't need whatever that line item might be for. Or if they have a line item and we are funding something, they're not utilizing it to the fullest extent of what they could be utilizing it, so does it even make sense to continue to pay for it? I mean, I just think that while I'm certainly not trying to neglect an official's position of need, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that if they need something, then we need to look at other things
Right.
that,
But I guess my question kind of boils down, have you seen, based on the submissions from those elected officials or department heads, that you kind of champion? Or that, you know, based on the feedback that you've gotten, we need to talk more about this. We need, like, if we're gonna search for 400,000 for the sheriff's office, you might say, hey, there's 125,000, we need to see if we can find that, or 10,000.
well,
I guess that's what I'm kind of
the
asking.
priorities, according to my constituents, are roads, public safety, building and maintenance.
Okay,
Those are the top 3,
bar none.
bar none.
Gotcha. Commissioner Walker, do you have any?
You can visit with the other ones first.
Okay. I'll
I
scratch
kinda
out 3
almost
and I'll
said
put
mine a while ago. I said sheriff department.
Okay, well, I'm coming back to you now.
okay.
You're giving up your shot.
Okay, not a problem.
Commissioner Mallett, do you have any priorities that you would like me to look at with the auditors when we're putting the preliminary
I
together?
agree with Commissioner Cox. I mean, my priorities are the sheriff's department, road and bridge, any other health and safety, similar with solid waste and environmental as well. And building maintenance.
Okay. But nothing no specific
I mean,
item or something?
Like the tools that they're gonna need, like the sheriff's department vehicles, I believe they're in the budget, is that right? They're already in this budget? Are you
What?
talking about any increased, anything additional that's not in the budget, or?
If it's been in the budget and we've already got it submitted, then I'm okay with that. But when they filled in their filler sheets of, no, my budget's not okay, I need this, 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 do you have any of those, this, that you support or you want us to take a look at?
Well, like I said, I don't know if they're for sure, think those are in there, but, like the additional vehicles for the sheriff's department, the additional equipment for road and bridge.
That's not in there. It's whatever they have this year. So if they request additional.
Additional?
It's not in there.
I think their numbers were about the same on those, so I guess I want.
I think they were.
I want to look at, I think your numbers
Yeah.
are
I
about the
think
same.
it was for the
compared to last
vehicles.
time.
Now, we went through all this discussion during
Lost.
the whole enterprise stuff, so. I
Yeah.
think it's budgeted for 3 vehicles, and technically this year, we actually ended up losing, 30,000 off our machinery and equipment to outfit some vehicles, because the 70,000, or 100,000 was taken away from vehicles, and 70,000 was put into, say, vehicle leasing, but when the budget was approved, only 70,000 came back in and not the other 30. So, but in sense too is, right now, I don't even know if we're gonna get the equipment to outfit the vehicles we bought yet. I mean, I've had vehicles sitting in the parking lot waiting to be outfitted, and we just can't get the equipment in to get outfitted, so that may become a kind of a wash point, but, as we discussed last time, is just the 3 vehicles alone, and outfitting 3 vehicles, we're not keeping up, as far as with the vehicles. Our fleet is aging, and it continues to age, and you can see this year, our maintenance for the vehicles has increased dramatically, is running close, if not over already. And we're pretty slim on our other line, so it's not like we could move money in there, but I can't deny repairs, and say, no, we're not gonna repair this, because then that goes into the whole safety of not only the officers, but then the citizens on the roadway. And we're having, pursuits have increased dramatically this year from previous years, and so it's, you gotta balance what do we repair and what's safe, so as the aging fleet goes, that maintenance is gonna continue to get higher and higher.
Did I notice, or maybe you know or don't know, seemed like Navasota got new cars and they were on that lease program,
But now, sort of runs that, they do work on that lease
But-
program.
but you said, we said something about because they run in the city and not on rural roads, that make a difference on how the vehicle holds up?
Well, yeah, there's a vast difference between municipality police and the sheriff's office police. We generate a lot more miles per vehicle than they, where, they may, when they go into a call, their call may, they got a city square limit, I'm not sure they're exactly the size of their city limits, but if they're 5 or 6 square miles, they may only be running 5, 6, 7
Well,
miles to
I
a
just
call
wondered how
where-
that program was
Yeah.
turning out for them,
Yeah,
because
where
we
we're
talked about
running-
it so much last
I mean,
year.
we can run 30, 40 miles to a call and turn around.
60,
And
65.
then have to go back. I mean, I know in my early years, I could run a call in Plantersville and then have to go all the way up to the guys and then you crisscross back and forth. And, I mean, we're probably putting 300, 400, 500 miles a day on a car sometimes. So, when you're putting that kind of mileage, and then, yeah, there's a difference between county roads for potholes and stuff, and then, asphalt and concrete roads. And when you have to run emergency calls there, you're having to get there as quick as possible to help preserve lives and protection. And, that pothole doesn't do too well at 50 miles an hour on that vehicle as compared to not having.
So, to what he said, we don't have vehicles in the budget now?
We only have 3, which is what, the same as this
Same as we
year.
did last year.
But there was discussion last year to up that, so we can get them on a rotation cycle. That would be a priority. That's what was said last year.
And what was the number?
I thought it was 5 or 6.
You got 5 requested.
You said five
And then I
requests.
gave Regis, my proposal again, for 3, and then we spotted that there's an error in those prices, and we brought that back to y'all. But,
450.
I mean, 3 will be at the bare minimum.
But that's even if you can get the vehicles, like if you.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I was able to get vehicles this year. Right now, I'm just having a hard time getting some of the emergency equipment for them. So I'm hoping I'll get it before the end of this year, if not,
Is that with
then
the,
I'm gonna have to see about, that was something I was gonna have to get with the auditor's office, if it's in the chance that that money, that equipment doesn't come in, can we roll that money over for next year, or for the next budget year, because if it comes October, then I'll lose that money from the budget, and I still have vehicles that aren't outfitted yet.
right, so that would be more or less a question for Commissioners Court, if that money's remaining at year end, because that's not what we make a practice of, budget year ends at September. But there are cases, it's a case-by-case basis, and so if that money was intended for this purpose and due to not being able to purchase it at that year, do you guys want to budget it again for the following year? And at that point, it would be from fund balance because it was.
But you don't want to budget again for next year because then that throws us closer to 3.5%
Kenny,
on our budget increases.
I'm sorry, do what?
Doesn't it push us to the budget caps of what we're allowed to increase the budgets?
That's revenue.
Right.
Right, so if you budget it, and then it doesn't take from your revenue because that money was in their budget at the year end, and we just put it as a fund balance usage. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. If he can get it between October and November, yes, we can do a PO and then we can
Right.
throw it back.
Right.
But you're basing that off of, you better make sure by November you're able to get it. And who can say that it's gonna be guaranteed by November?
But it could be tagged in a fund balance.
to me,
You
administrative.
know, I get set up
That's what I'm saying.
designated
So
amount.
you budget for it, but there's no revenue to offset
No,
it.
there's
It would be in your addendum A listed, and as to why.
All right.
Because I got 2 POs out right now that I don't know if I'm gonna get.
And part of
Right.
this request, it's 5 patrol vehicles and 3 administrative vehicles. So I guess total, I was looking at the patrol vehicles in particular.
because he said 5 patrol is a must for, that's what he,
Well, 3, I think he said 3, it's an absolute minimum.
That's a minimum, yeah. And last year, we had discussed increasing that 3 because of the situation that they're currently in.
That's the reason why we brought the whole enterprise and had all those workshop meetings on the enterprise. And then the direction was, that we were gonna make it up and start funding these vehicles ourselves in the next budget year. So that's the direction we're taking.
I guess speaking of which, have we had much more information or any feedback from folks that are on the enterprise, or is it still too new to some?
No, I could get him to come back in and update, because there've been a couple of counties that have had the 3-year program. I think Navasota's been in it for 3 years, so. Commissioner
were
Cox,
just-
you sat in on a
Yeah.
council meeting, I think. I don't know what you gained out of that.
Well, I gained that Navasota is down to 2 owned vehicles. Everything, their whole fleet's leased.
Okay.
I think we were trying to look at other counties with more, to
And
be apples to apples
Yeah,
comparison.
that's a city matter. It's I think it's a little bit different than
Yeah,
county.
it's a little different mileage.
The softer usage on the vehicles. there's no
Yes,
doubt.
yeah, and I think it was the equity,
Rural
what,
counties.
if they could provide us.
Leon, I
with-
think Leon County just recently.
They just signed up.
Last year.
Yep.
I think Waller County.
I think Waller's at their 4-year now.
Yeah, I think they may have some information.
So, I mean, I think that could be something we can push to try to potentially, I don't know if it's, we got time to really get information and do it this year, but we definitely need to try to consider that.
I mean, the concern I have with the leasing, and I think, well, multiple concerns, but one of them is, where does that end? Because if we could get in a situation where we have zero county-owned vehicles, and our entire vehicle fleet is managed by a private company outside the control of anybody.
think we would still control, but I think there's also, you
You'd
can
have-
purchase what you've got there too.
You'd have contractual obligations that dictated the circumstances. Whereas right now, we can say, yes, you can get a vehicle, or no, you can't. If we go through a leasing agency, whatever that contract dictates is how we have to operate. And I mean, we can have all these discussions later. I'm not saying I'm opposed to looking at it again, but I'm just
So I
saying.
think we could, there's still a buy-out clause, so if we're leasing, so there's, I guess, they're staggered in there. So
Yeah.
some are almost paid for, some are less paid for,
Right.
some that we just recently got. So, I mean, I think we kind of looked into that possibility if we had to pay for the vehicles, if we didn't like that first lease project or something, it wasn't like extremely, the percentage of what they were making on it wasn't that much more than actually outright buying those vehicles, so.
Commissioner Mallett, any other priorities?
I guess, like I said, the equipment, I believe Road and Bridge, there's a little bit more that they're requesting. I would really like to consider, to make sure we're meeting those needs.
Okay.
on Road and Bridge.
Okay.
And, I believe the paving projects,
The which,
the paving projects.
Okay.
And the resurfacing projects. I believe there's actually a little bit less on the resurface project, but there's a little bit increase on the new. I know since this year, we're having trouble actually doing anything. I want to make sure we either carry some of that over for the next or.
I know in the past, I think a couple of years ago, we ended up, initially it started out, they're supposed to try to get 10 miles of road, and that's what we would budget. And then one year, we said, okay, we want to see if you can do it for 20 miles of road. And so then that additional 10 miles of road came from fund balance, because we weren't quite sure that they could actually not accomplish that, but weather permitting, that they would be able to do that. So those type of paving things we have in the past taken from fund balance, just because, and I may be mistaken, but I don't believe they reached the 20 miles.
they did not, I think it was 17,
So,
13 or 17, I don't
I
remember
mean,
what it
this
is.
year is not looking.
yeah, this year is probably, they're gonna,
I just want to make sure we're well funded for next year, if weather
Okay.
permitting, we can get those done.
yes, like catch up on.
And like I said, I think we put in, versus 442, we put in 547. So, I'd like to, make sure that we're on top of, supplying that if possible, so.
All right, sir. Commissioner Dobianski?
Everything that I have on my list has been covered except one thing, and it's the iDocket or some type of system to keep up with our bail bonds. And Greg has got some information that I picked up last week that he's checking on. I think he's looking at one or two other companies. But like I said, everything else on my list has been covered
Okay.
thoroughly.
Very good, thank you.
So you said a system for the bail bonds, is that what you said?
Software.
The
Software.
Which y'all have a fund balance to be able to use
Yes.
too for that. Is that what you were wanting, or?
Well, no, what I'm trying to do, and I've been trying to do this for several years, is get each department a system that they can communicate the amount of bail we have out, so we can print it out. Right now, they have to manually go back and I think you all have been involved in.
Yes, uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about.
So for those departments, you want a
Yes.
system, not
Yes.
for bail, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner Walker, I'm back to you now.
Okay, I think everything pretty much has been covered, that I'm on board also with Sheriff Department, hospital improvements, and the one thing, I didn't understand your instructions from the beginning, so one of the things I put down here was cost of living, but you've already put that in the budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that was the other thing. Other than that, I didn't look at each, I just looked at, I
So
knew.
really, the only thing different that you're addressing that the others haven't has been the hospital.
Yeah.
And we've had conversation on that. And more specifically on the hospital, what are you looking at? More for the maintenance or more for the, I don't know?
Repairs and maintenance.
Okay, repairs and maintenance.
Judge, if I could add one more thing.
You sure can.
I've heard a couple of comments that are kind of, I don't think we need to forget the sleeping giant, and that would be IT. that I think we need to maintain what we have there in that direction.
Thank you. Good point.
One more thing, I guess it's not really, I don't think it'll be a monetary issue, but a possibility, or at least to be discussed, to move our traffic enforcement under the sheriff's department. I think I talked to the sheriff last year about it. He didn't have a problem with putting that person under. I don't know exactly why we put it under the constable to start with, because it's a countywide operation as far as the traffic enforcement, weights and measures, possibility of putting that under the sheriff's department.
Yeah, I think that was a discussion that originally was supposed to be specifically a weight and measure officer because of all the heavy loads that were coming throughout the county, but I don't think I don't know that.
We never got the training for that officer.
Certified there, but it's still in that same capacity, he's, monitoring the county roads and, checking trucks, and even though they can't weigh them, but it makes sure they're good on everything else that's running on the county roads and, school zones and stuff like that. But, the sheriff didn't have a problem with him.
But
being
does the
under his-
constable, have we talked to the constable about that?
About moving him? No.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sure we'd have a problem.
Yeah, we need feedback from there.
Yeah,
I would think
absolutely. That's why
that would be,
I think it needs to be discussed.
Okay.
People are in precinct one or wondering why they're precinct two constable, not to get
because
those
there
calls.
may be other things he do that we may not be aware of.
Sure,
that he does.
absolutely. But as far, I would like our traffic report.
Auditors, for the moment, is there anything you want from us?
Yeah, I would just ask that maybe if we can meet with you
Yeah.
to get the numbers and plug them in and be able to have a budget.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I won't be here for 2 AM concrete forums, but I can, other than that. If there's no further business, we'll go to agenda item number 3. Not business. There's no further discussion. There is a motion to, or is there a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion before the court by Commissioner Walker, seconded by Commissioner Dobianski. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned, and it is 12:47.
One other thing I want to mention to you.
Just a minute.